Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Coming up this afternoon. Minority in Parliament requests Speaker to summon the House for the sitting of a special that's in relation to the Trade Ministry's collection of various sums from expatriate businesses. National Disaster Management Organization to use technology in disaster management going into 2018. We assess how NADMO has performed in 2017. ECOWAS observer mission describes Liberian runoff as peaceful. Meanwhile, concerns over fear of the unknown as former footballer George Oponwia is likely to be declared president of Liberia. We have sports and entertainment all coming up shortly. Stay with us. We'll start with our stories now. And the minority in Parliament has requested the Speaker to summon to the House for the special sitting to investigate the Trade Ministry's collection of various sums from expatriate businesses. The request was contained in an emergency motion to the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay.
The motion, dated Wednesday, December 27, 2017, was signed by Minority Chief Whip and MP for Asawase, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, and North Tong MP, Samuel Lukujeto Ablakwa. The motion requests the House investigate the levy and collection by the Ministry of Trade and Industry of a Ghana cedi equivalent of various sums of money in United States of American dollars from expatriate businesses in Ghana and related matters during the recently held Ghana Expatriates Business Awards in Accra. The request comes after government cleared the Trade Ministry of any wrongdoing after the Minority Chief Whip accused the ministry of charging unapproved fees to the tune of $100,000 to grant access to President Akufo-Addo. The president said the information available to him on the $100,000 reserved seat scandal does not support the claim of wrongdoing. A statement from the information minister noted the facts, as reported to the president, do not point to any wrongdoing on the part of the minister or any government official. The statement came days after public outrage over claims that the Trade Ministry has extorted $100,000 from expatriates for a presidential seat at the Ghana Expatriates Business Awards. Deputy Trade Minister Carlos Ahinkra has admitted some monies were taken from expatriates but said they were later transferred into the account of the awards organizers Millennium Excellence Foundation.
And our reporter Catherine Frimpong has been following the story, joins us from Parliament, where she'll be interacting with Osei Chairman Sabonso, the majority leader in Parliament, on this very issue and concerns raised by the minority. So we have Catherine there. Over to you, Catherine.
So, coming to you live from the Parliament House of Ghana, specifically at the Job 600, I am joined by the Majority Leader and Leader of the House, Honorable Osei Chairman Sabonso, to have his reactions and thoughts on the minority motion that is calling for a sitting to investigate the $100,000 presidential seat scandal. Honorable, good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live on TV3.
Good afternoon and thank you for having me.
Merry Christmas as well.
Belated one to you too. Prosperous New Year to you.
All right. So I'm sure you know about the motion filed by the minority calling for an emergency sitting of Parliament.
I got to hear about it yesterday in the evening. The President had summoned us to the last cabinet meeting for the year, and we're there from 10 o'clock until 7. And coming to the house after that place, I was met with that news that they had filed a motion for us to meet on the alleged payment of some amounts by some expatriate businessmen. So I got to hear late in the evening yesterday.
And so what has been the response by Parliament?
I spoke to the Speaker. We need to meet on that, and possibly to meet my colleagues in the minority, the Speaker and I, to meet them, and then we'll talk through that. The Constitution in Article 112, Sub 3, provides such avenue for the minority to, through the Speaker, cause Parliament to be summoned to discuss matters that may be of urgent national importance. So I think they are availing themselves of that vehicle. The question to ask, though, at this stage is this really an urgent national matter to compel Parliament to sit? I honestly don't think so. Usually, if on such adjournments, if a matter suddenly arises, then that resort could be applied. In the alternative, if maybe the minority, as part of the oversight responsibilities of Parliament, had gone to see the Speaker to maybe file a question or a motion, and the Speaker is responsible for the admissibility of questions, and maybe the Speaker had refused to do that, then they will apply themselves to this path. Unfortunately, I do not know of any such application to the Speaker, either through a question or a motion or a statement. I have not heard of any such resort at all. And then we go on recess, and the first working day after we proceed on recess, you are summoning Parliament. It would seem to me that that clearly is an abuse of the processes of Parliament. However, is there constitutional, charge if they want to apply themselves to it? One cannot fault them, except that I believe we should be careful in how we apply this. Yes, when we were in the minority, we resorted to this on 2 occasions. We did so because, in our case, we applied to the Speaker. By way of an urgent question, he refused. We came by a motion, he refused. I wouldn't say that he flatly refused. He tried to talk us into abandoning it. But we felt we needed to discuss it. But then he closed the door on us, and we went on recess. So when we went on recess, we felt that was the resort open to us, which is what we did. The other one, it was in respect of, I think, the Ridge Hospital matter, and the other one was in respect of the road contract to Michelle's Kanazoe. On both occasions, the Speaker tried to persuade us to abandon it. We refused to abandon it, and since the doors were closed, those were the only options open to us, which is what we did. In this case, the matter has not suddenly arisen. It was with us before we went on recess, and if we had any cause to call Parliament to interrogate the issue, we had the opportunity to do that. You didn't do that. And then when we proceed on recess, and then you want to spring it as a surprise on us. I don't think that's the way it should be managed.
Okay. Honourable, so can the House ignore the motion on such a basis?
No, indeed. By the Constitution in Article 1123 provides for the Speaker to summon Parliament within 7 days. There's no alternative. Within 7 days after he receives it. I understand that he received it yesterday, the 28th of December, the 27th of December. So the days will start counting from today. And the 7th day, normally, in fact, we have often had difficulty reckoning the days. If we should reckon weekends and Mondays when we don't sit, what it means is that, in fact, the Constitution does not impose any additional burden on the Speaker as to when to summon Parliament. The Constitution provides for him to act within 7 days. But as to when to summon Parliament, the Constitution doesn't provide for that. But our own standing orders provide that when he has to act within 7 days, then summoning Parliament should also be within 7 days of the summons. So it means that he has a maximum of 14 days to act. Now, if we don't count the weekends, then it will take us to the 23rd of January, when Parliament is coming back. So why do you have to do that when you know Parliament is coming back on the 23rd? And then you say the Speaker should summon Parliament. On the other hand, if you will not count the holidays, then, the weekends, if you have to count the weekend, the days of the weekends, then it takes us to, I think, the 11th of January. In which case, the question then is, do you, because it's not a matter of urgent national importance, do you think it is proper that you summon Parliament to meet on the 11th, and then we discuss an issue, and then whatever the conclusion is, Parliament proceeds on leave again and comes back the following week?
So are you then saying that it wasn't necessary to file this motion?
That is my considered opinion. However, it's their right. But I think that we need to dialogue on them on it. If they insist, then we need to, meet to debate it.
So if the majority had its way, you would talk them out of, convening this meeting?
Well, we jaw on it. We didn't just want to talk them out, but we jaw on it to see the reasonability of that enterprise. And then, but if they insist, as I said, the Constitution allows them that right. So if they insist, the Speaker will have to oblige.
And then finally, what will be the processes to convene this meeting?
Well, my attention has been drawn to the fact that they themselves have drawn, the agenda for the agenda for it, and I was surprised. But I will not deal with it. Maybe when we come. The
business committee did not agree on that.
No. It's for the business committee to plan the business, but they themselves have, undertaking to formulate the processes for that day for us. So we want to see how it will amount to and what it will amount to. But as I'm saying, it's their constitutional right, and I think that we can only dialogue on it. If they insist to have it, the Speaker will oblige, and the House will have to sit on that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking with the majority leader and leader of the House of Parliament, Honorable Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, on the minority's call for an emergency sitting for Parliament to discuss the $100,000 presidential table scandal. Over to you, Wendy, in the studio.
Very much indeed, Catherine Frepoma. She'll bring us some more updates in subsequent bulletins. You're still watching Media Live. Let's look at one of our headline stories. And the National Disaster Management Organization has for 2017 been faced with challenges, especially logistics for disaster management. Disasters such as the gas explosion, fires and flood were predominant in the year under review. And joining me this afternoon in the studio is Abu Ramadan. He is the Deputy Director General Operations at NADMO. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And thanks for your time. Now, for the year 2017, we know of some of the major disasters like the gas explosion, but how would you describe the year for NADMO?
Good afternoon to your viewers. It's been a challenging year for us, considering the fact that we took over somewhere in March, after the first quarter had almost run out. And since then, from the first day we started work, we had to move full swing into action because the disaster didn't wait for us to settle down. But we managed to sail through, and it's been challenging and daunting. But I would say the men and women of the organization have worked tirelessly to make sure that disaster doesn't affect as many people as people would expect it to. So we've done pretty well this year.
So how were you able to deal with these challenges, if you can recall some of them specifically, and how you were able to deal with them in the face of these challenges?
For the first time, we just didn't wait for disasters to happen. We put in enough measures to have a preventive side of the whole cycle, so that the preventive will guide us. The prevention and the preventive strategy we put in place will guide us and help us. So there were a lot of systems and policies that were put in place. There were a lot of programs that were rolled out so that we are not caught off guard. And aside that too, with the meager resource we had, for instance, the gas explosion that happened at Atomic, which was the largest single disaster that happened this year. With the little resource we had, we supported and coordinated with the security agencies, the police, the fire service, together with other agencies that were supposed to play a role, ambulance service. We help coordinate to make sure that the risk factor and the impact of it is felt less. We provided logistics to support the police to make sure that they're able to carry out their duties properly. And I think generally, with the little resource, we manage to squeeze and do things properly. And aside that, for the first time in the history of this country, we envisage the flooding situation up north. And it always happens when a Bagri Dam is spilled. But for the first time, we had a team led by myself. We were up north for close to 2.5 months to 3 months. We were stationed there with our equipment and our men, and we did a lot of sensitization. We ran around the villages, the communities, and back home at the head office, technology too is playing its own role. So whilst we were there, we were communicating with our EOC, Emergency Operations Center at the head office, and they were giving us daily reports, daily updates as to the weather patterns, where it's likely to rain heavy. And I think collectively, with the little resource we had, we managed to stem the effect of disasters that happened this year.
But even before we delve into technology, in the time past, there were lots of donations that would go to your institution by several corporate institutions. You've mentioned in the face of these challenges and little resources, over and over again. What is being done to deal with this problem? Are there other means that are being looked at to deal with the problem?
Now with the new law, we are allowed to generate revenue as an organization. In the past, we couldn't generate revenue, but now we are allowed by law to generate revenue. So we are putting together the LI that will go to Parliament for approval. Then based on that, we will now have our revenue generation streams to make sure that we have regular inflow. But on the side of donations and support that have come, this year, largely it has been pharmaceuticals. In line with probably the disasters that happened, the gas explosion and all that. But as much as possible, our budget for 2018 that we sent through the Ministry of Interior to the Finance Ministry for our funding for next year, we've incorporated a little bit of everything.
Which is how much?
It's not been fully approved yet, so I can't throw out the figures. But we've incorporated a little bit of everything so that every sector or every area will be touched a little bit, so that we can sustain and keep the organization running properly. Although we are in a difficult situation as a government. Now,
in this bit about technology, some few months ago, I interviewed one of your officials who mentioned that you're looking at coming up with apps and the like to ensure that you're par with what is happening. What other things are you doing aside the bit about earthquakes and then some flood-prone areas that could be affected?
We're partnering the private sector. There was this group that brought some technology, some idea that we've looked into. They've launched it, but we are yet to roll onto that app, which seeks to give access by the touch of a button to anybody wherever you are in the country. The moment you click, you open the app, and you have a problem, you choose the problem you have, maybe you're involved in an accident. The moment you click on it, it sends us your geographical location, where you are, and it is transmitted straight to our EOC at the head office here in Accra. So by virtue of that, we can quickly coordinate with the agencies that we coordinate already, with the police, and the team on standby at the head office, if it's in Accra, will move. If it's outside Accra too, would also instruct them to move, to take their education tools or whatever they need to go and help those in need. And aside that, we at the head office, together with our partners, the Norwegian government, the US government, and some other development partners, we're putting together a proper app system where we will have proper early warning systems. And as of now, we have this microwave data that we get from satellite images that comes in on daily basis, where we see where has been zoned out for fires, particularly in this Hamatan period. So we're looking at the very dry savanna areas where the possibility of fire outbreak, monitoring it on daily basis. So we have early warning based on the temperature and the images that are coming. We can determine that based on this, the team in Upper East or Upper West should be on standby, because the possibility of a fire outbreak is 70–80%. So
that is already running.
That's already running. We've rolled that one out. And even with rains too as well, we have along the banks of most of the rivers, we've put new systems in place in line with the CREW project, which the Norwegian government supported us, where we detect the thresholds of the water. If it's moving beyond or getting to its peak, we know we get the signal, we get the warning at the headquarters, then we inform our people on the ground to move in to go and check. Then now sensitize people to move them away. So we're doing a lot in terms of the preventive. That is the main drive of the Director General, to move more into the preventive than than the response when the incident happens.
Thank you so much
Thank
for your time. Abu Ramadan is the Deputy Director General Operations with NADMO. Away from that story, congestion at Ghana's prisons have shot up to over 300%. This authority is blamed on the failure of Parliament to pass the non-custodial sentence bill.
Probation and conditional discharges are also still on the country's statutes. Subsection 4, 5 and 6 of Section 294 of the Criminal Procedure and Other Offences Act, Act 30, makes provisions for non-custodial sentences. Section 313A also indicate a court shall pass a non-custodial sentence on pregnant women convicted of a non-capital offence or may suspend the sentence for such period as it may determine. Additional Section 318 subsection 3 also provides for payment of fines by installment. The non-custodial sentencing refers to community service for persons convicted for some categories of offences. Unfortunately, these provisions are not complied with in day-to-day judicial proceedings. Some culprits had been thrown into prison for minor offences. For instance, it is common to hear news about the incarceration of a person or persons for 10 years or even more for stealing a tuber of yam. These sentencing, though an act to deter others, turn out to impose huge financial burden on the state in terms of feeding, clothing and medical care while in prison.
Because when the prisons are overcrowded, the burden is on us. When the prisons are overcrowded and we can't do what we're really expected to do, we feel the pain and we feel that we are not doing the right thing. So we are worried and we pray that they should fast track this bill so that it comes and then our brothers and sisters can start benefiting from it and our prisons will be decongested. We'll have enough room, resources to train those that need to be trained.
These have led to astronomical increase in the prisoner population in Ghana. Unfortunately, the draft legislation on non-custodial sentencing is still in the pipeline since 2010 and hurting the prison service.
You will realize that some people who come to prison wouldn't have come at all. In most of the East African countries, they have parole and probation services. We don't have that yet. And they have suspended services. We don't have that yet. So if that happens, then we will be getting there. But for now, we'll be dealing with maybe amnesty and then people paying their fines if they have the money to decongest the prisons.
Chief Public Relations Officer Superintendent Vitalis Aye urged Parliament to expedite the passage of the bill to help decongest the prisons.
And since 2011, psychiatric hospitals across the country haven't received mental health drugs. This has taken a toll on effective mental health care delivery across the country. The Mental Health Authority is calling on relevant stakeholders to quicken the processes for the procurement of drugs. For more than 5 years, psychiatric hospitals across the country have been operating without procured medicines needed for healthcare delivery.
And these medications, we have indicated that for a very long time we are not getting the supplies. The last time, psychotropics were procured within the ministry was in 2011.
Donations from NGOs have become the order.
It is a worrying, challenge. We haven't been able to, over time, provide to our patients what is needed to be provided to.
It's not holistic then?
Well, to some extent, yes. In the absence of medication, what do? If the facility cannot provide them, we resort to writing out to patients, to go out and get the medication. And the challenge, most of our patients cannot afford these medications.
Head of Communications at the Mental Health Authority, Kweku Brobe, explained money has been allocated for the procurement of drugs, but that has not happened yet.
We do have an indication that there's been a 3 million CD budget that's been allocated for psychiatric medications. What's going to happen is it has to go through procurement processes so that the ministry procures the medication and sends it to us as at the MHA. And because the money has not come to us, we cannot guarantee exactly when this process is going to be over.
Recently, TV3 reported on some patients at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital who are relapsing and posing a threat to health workers due to lack of medications. For many years, the Accra Psychiatric Hospital has been in the news for varied reasons ranging from shortage of food items and congestion. Poor infrastructure, lack of medication and poor conditions of service have become prominent. And 5 other victims involved in the atomic gas explosion are still on admission at the 37 military hospital. According to doctors, their cases were critical with severe burns, hence the need for intensive medical care. But the hospital is in need of medical consumables and other logistics for their care and general well-being of the hospital.
The 37 military hospital was one of the centers that received and treated most of the victims involved in the disaster that claimed 7 lives on October 7. The hospital received several donations in support of the victims. The president promised all bills of the victims would be footed by the government. 2 months on, authorities at the hospital say they are still in need, even though government has delivered on its promise.
For now, it's critical. You know, we are designated as the disaster hospital. So the letter we have, we use on them. So we realize that our stocks are always depleted. So we are appealing to the public. Those corporate organizations, philanthropists, those who come to our aid, especially the consumables, will be very grateful.
Matron of the hospital, Colonel Vikoko, said 5 people were still on admission but was not sure when they would be discharged.
Some were in the ICU and they are back into the ward, so we are still treating them.
It is in response to this need that 9BS International Limited has presented medical consumables to the hospital as part of its corporate social responsibility and also for the festive season.
From what I've gathered, they are food supplements. So we just add on to the drugs we give to the patients and then advise them as such.
The company earlier presented 500 cartons of Fab Energy drink to the Ghana Police Service to boost their energy for active work in the Christmas season.
It improves your mind and your physical intellect, and this is something that if you take, you are always active. We want to really help the police to have the energy to work within this period. That's why we got the drinks and then we intend to donate some to them.
Well, from that story, the Takoradi District Court, Market Circle, has remanded into police custody Detective Corporal Ajay Shaibu on suspicion of shooting to death a student and injuring another. He had allegedly called them thieves before firing the gun.
Detective Corporal Ajay Shaibu appeared keen on avoiding the lenses of the media. The prosecutor, Inspector Ahinsan, prayed the court to be given 2 weeks to allow for investigations to be completed and also seek advice from the Attorney General. The defense lawyer Edmond Akwa Ahin, however, argued for his client to be granted bail as he had already spent about 5 days in police custody.
They've been with my clients, taking him from one point, from the Shama to Sekendi. They cannot tell me that because it was a holiday, they were not working. They were working. The very first incident happened, they started doing the investigation. So I was a bit surprised as to why they are saying that they are yet to finish. They've been to several places, they've called some people, interview and done some interrogation. So for them to say that they are yet to finish is quite mind-boggling.
It will be recalled that a final year student of the Ghana Secondary Technical School was shot to death and another injured at Nyankrom in the Shama district on Friday, December 22. The other 3 friends managed to escape and continue on to point at Detective Corporal Shaibu as the culprit. We gathered the suspect is a neighbor and a close friend of the father of the deceased, Lawrence Bedu. The case has been adjourned to January 12, 2018.
This is Midday Live. We have more soon. Next sustain, we have international news, and the head of ECOWAS election observer mission in Liberia, John Dramani Mahama, has described the just ended runoff election as free, fair and transparent, urging political parties to remain restrained and peaceful until the results, that's the final results, are given. And ECOWAS commends the CDC and UP candidates for their demonstration of statesmanship and exemplary conduct so far, and urges them to stay the course of restraint, legality and peace until the end of the process. Former President Mahama mentioned that, and he made the statement at a press conference in Monrovia on December 27, 2017. And to bring you some more on what's happening in Liberia, we're going over to Skype now, and joining me is Ibrahim Nye. He is a Liberian political researcher. Hello, and thanks for your time, Ibrahim.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right, now how are Liberians receiving the processes so far in relation to your elections? And congratulations as well.
Thank you very much. Liberians have demonstrated their commitment to the peace process and the rule of law. And so there is a huge anxiety sitting in. Everyone is expecting what the Election Commission has to say today. And we expect that provisional results will be released today and tomorrow. By the end of tomorrow, we will have a clear winner from the election.
Now, you have been saying that there is a fear of the unknown. What exactly do you mean? And if indeed Oponwia should be declared president-elect, so what is he bringing on board? Is that related to you saying that there could be the fear of the unknown in your country?
Well, people are not clear about the policy programs of Mr. George Weah besides the campaign for change. And this is normal in all democratic processes. People tend to, particularly countries that have a stable electoral regime, people tend to change parties after 2 terms, most of the cases, and in some of the cases just after 1 term. So this is just the same trend that has taken place in Liberia. But people want to know what George Weah is bringing on board. People want to see his cabinet makeup if he's actually bringing change. And you will begin to see the change from the composition of his government, the cabinet, his appointive power.
Well, we've lost him there, but we'll try and get him back to give us his views as he was telling us more on the Liberian elections. And again, the head of ECOWAS elections observer mission to Liberia, John Dramani Mahama, has described the just ended runoff election as free, fair and transparent, urging political parties to remain restrained and peaceful until the final results. ECOWAS commends the DCC and UP candidates for their demonstration of statesmanship. Again, ECOWAS urges them to stay the course of restraint, legality and peace until the end of the process. Former President Mahama said this when he made a statement at the press conference in Monrovia on December 27, 2017.
Made. The ECOWAS Observer Mission also urges NEC to work diligently and expedite action on the proclamation of the provisional results in order to avoid creating anxiety within the nation. The Observer Mission commends the CDC and the UP candidates for their demonstration of statesmanship and their exemplary conduct so far, and urges them to stay the course of restraint, legality and peace until the end of the process. The mission also congratulates the other 18 candidates and political parties for their role in ensuring healthy political competition and a peaceful electoral process. It urges both CDC and UP candidates in particular and their political parties and followers to accept the verdict of the ballot box as will be declared by the competent authority in due course, the National Elections Commission, and refrain from any action that would jeopardize the peace, and also refrain from any premature declaration of results of the election.
Still on Liberia, we're going back to Ibrahim Nye, a Liberian political researcher. Hello, Ibrahim. We lost you early on.
Okay. Do you see me clearly?
Yes, we can hear and see you now. And you were telling us about the fear of the unknown and why you made those statements early on.
Well, it's the huge expectation that people have, the glamour for change, and so people don't know what's coming on board with the new government, particularly if it is a CDC government. People don't know the kind of cabinet George Weah is going to announce, and so the change will be seen first in the makeup of his cabinet. So that's the fear of the unknown. What kind of economic programs they're going to introduce, how their reforms going to be like, and it's not clearly stated in any political platform. So that's the fear of the unknown.
But are people there ready?
Well, people are ready for the change, and this is a stable country. Over the last 12 years, Liberia has been stable, and so people are ready to accept the outcome of the democratic process. All
right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I have been speaking to Ibrahim Nye. He's a Liberian political researcher. He was telling us about happenings in Liberia. Bring you some more updates, but that's all for international news. Thanks for staying. The Bank of Ghana has indicated it may not license new banks in 2018. Now, this move is to allow the regulator review the shortfalls in implementing the required minimum capital for existing banks and further prevent entry of new banks with low requirement.
The central bank intends to facilitate strict measures to implement the capital requirement of 400 million cedis in 2018. The decision will allow time to carefully monitor financial institutions, as most of them are expected to meet the new capital requirement by next year. Banking consultant Nana Otue Champon has commended the regulator for the move.
What the regulator wants to do is to really sit down and review the system to see whether new ones should come in, but more especially these 5 groups, as to whether they should remain as 5 groups or consolidate some of them into getting less than the 5 groups. So I think strategically it's a very up move, and the regulator is commended for that.
Let's look at the implications now for the no license policy for 2018.
The implication is that there will be no new entrants for the year and the review. And then after that, we'll see where they will open up, whether there will be no more universal banking licenses for another period. But because we have a free market economy, you cannot do that for too long. Because what happens with free market economy is that you only intervene when there's an externality. And this externality was the collapse of the 2 banks, and therefore the regulator had to intervene to arrest the situation. So I'm sure after the review, they will open the floodgates, if I may put it that way, and new ones can come in.
The finance minister has proposed measures for the smaller banks. Should we see measures in 2018? How are we going to go about it? Are they going to acquire new licenses, or they're going by the old ones they have already?
Oh no, when we say a new license, then we mean a fresh one. But this one, if it's already existing and they need to, they have to merge, then their license status will be changed, because there's no addition. If anything at all, it will become a subtraction. So if you're already in the system, say 2 banks are already in the system and they merge, then we have had a reduction of 1. So I don't think that rule will apply.
Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, has further suggested the decision will help ensure insolvency and stability in the banking sector at the end of the 1-year reform process.
Thank you very much indeed, Nana Kojafre. Our sultry songstress, Miss Bill, is the latest to back dancehall star Ebony over her choice of costume for shows. Miss Bill finds the tagging of Ebony as a bad influence, most regrettably noting Ghanaians are missing the lines between showbiz, business and life of stage.
I got myself a sponsor. Saying that Ebony is the next Miss Bell. What's your take on that?
I think Ebony is herself. She's doing good. You know, as show business, you see, people will say Cardi B is like Nicki Minaj. This person is like Beyonce. You know, as entertainment is like that. There are similarities, but it doesn't mean Ebony is going to be the next Miss Bell. She's herself. She wants to be recognized for herself. So Ebony is a new Ebony.
Many people have chastised her for her choice of clothes. But the others who say that a lot of people follow her, they look up to her, so she should be very, very chosen.
I really don't understand why people cannot separate show business from normal life. If you are looking up to her, what are you looking up for? She's on stage and she's performing, so definitely you should know that she's wearing a costume. So if you are looking up to her and you want to be like her, then you need to get your ass on the stage and wear the same thing that she's wearing. But if you are following her and you can't take anything out of what she's doing, but you can only take her costume and wear it on the street, then excuse me to say, you're not being trained properly at home.
One day you will know, these are the words of my mother.
Why do people always want to blame celebrities for how their kids live their life? They watch telenovelas, they see people kissing and wearing all sorts of crazy clothes, and it's accepted. Once a celebrity go on stage and wear a costume, then they say, hey, you're supposed to be a role model and blah blah blah. The music she is selling is she has to wear a costume to suit it, and she can't wear anything better than what she's wearing now. So me, I disagree with all the nyam.
Criticism are out of place, totally out of place.
It makes sense. When you see a role model on the stage and she's performing and you want to copy something, then it means you copy the whole act. You make sure you groom yourself, you're good enough to become a musician to go on stage, and then you can wear the clothes that she, but you can't just pick.
There are those who look at her and say, I like how she's dressed, how she wears her stuff, and I would like to do same. Man.
Then they are not being trained well at home. Because if you have proper training at home, you will know that what she's wearing it for business. So if you are not in that business, you have no business wearing it. You can't say, oh, I like the way the doctor and the nurses dress, so the next minute you go and buy green and white and start wearing it all over the place. People will say you are crazy. Hello?
Now it beats me every night and day. My mission is to want me, but I didn't want to know. My mission.
Well, on that note, we end Midday Live. Thank you so much for watching. We're grateful for your time. My name is Wendy Lai. Enjoy the rest of our programs and the rest of your day as well.